TV 1061, conceptualizing your ideas across the world and beyond. TV 1061, conceptualizing your ideas across the world and beyond. TV 1061, conceptualizing your ideas across the world and beyond. TV 1061, conceptualizing your ideas across the world and beyond.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Your Real Estate Tea, where we teach you so you can become educated to achieving your home ownership goals. I'm Andrea Farley, real estate broker with Maximum One Realtor Partners, and today we're going to be discussing fair housing. Now this week we still are celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and he was definitely key in the signing for the bill for fair housing. Even after his death, he played a very integral role in getting that put in place. And today I have a guest who is going to discuss the history along with other information regarding fair housing. And so today my guest is Judge Parker. He is a lead instructor with TAP Real Estate School, where they offer salesperson's pre-licensing, CE courses, brokers courses as well. So let's first talk about the National Association of Realtors and how they play a part in fair housing. Now, we discussed last week where as a realtor, we're held to a higher standard. And so as a realtor, we have to abide by a code of ethics. And with that being said, there is a specific article that is in place in the rules and regulations for the Code of Ethics, where realtors cannot engage in any discriminatory acts. And so, and they've also expanded on that as well, where even in agents' actions outside of what they do can potentially be a violation. And now I want to introduce Judge Parker to give us some history on fair housing. And Judge, if you could introduce yourself and share with us all that you know, because you are the encyclopedia for real estate.
So they say anyway. Well, listen, again, my name is Judge Parker. I'm a licensed real estate broker as well as licensed instructor in Georgia. And I've taught a variety of different classes, from real estate-related classes to finance classes to mortgage, economics, just a number of different types of courses that are related to real estate, and some not so specific to real estate, but just simply giving some individuals some insight as to how they should proceed when they're engaging in real estate.
Okay.
But in more specific to your question about fair housing, the fair housing is a part of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and the Civil Rights Act was originally written in 1866 when it stated that all citizens shall have the same rights as white citizens. So it was interesting as to how it was crafted from the perspective of just simply saying that, white was only the people that was given rights, so now everyone should have the same rights. But that didn't go far enough, because it took them almost 98 years later to create the Fair Housing Act, which now allows for individuals to own houses. There's one thing and not be discriminated against based upon the 7 protected classes. And those are race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and handicap. But one thing that stands out to me more than anything, in 1974-75, football player Tony Dorsett, when he got drafted by the Cowboys, was looking to purchase a house in a very affluent, upscale neighborhood in Dallas. And the owners in that, this is prior to the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act really having some teeth. 64 was when it was signed, but it was amended in 1970, I want to say 78, somewhere around that time frame, and again in 88. But anyway, the white owners in that neighborhood told him that we like you and we think you're a great running back for the Cowboys, but you can't live in our neighborhoods. Right.
Wow.
And it's like, wow. But that's just the tip of it as to what people of color have experienced as far as the fair housing is concerned. But now the laws are very, very specific in how they should be administered. And in 1988 is when the last amendment to the Fair Housing Act was done, and it made it that much more, it added more penalties to those individuals, and it made it easier to be able to file. The filing paperwork, the filing process rather, was a lot more easier after 1988 when they made the last amendment to the Fair Housing Act. So they've made about 4 of them since, and they also added familiar status, which is anyone with children or in process of adoption, children under the age of 18, or anyone caring for someone. They may be of age as an adult, but they're not of age mentally. So that's all part of familiar status type provision that was added during that time frame. So fair housing has evolved. There's still some things that need to be done, but it still has evolved into a place where it is now much more recognizable when discriminatory practice is actually taking place.
Right. And that's great information regarding the history of fair housing. And so right now we do have legislation in place. And again, being a realtor, the role as there is a difference between a real estate agent and a realtor. But as a realtor, we have to abide by certain ethics, even when we work with clients, buyers and sellers. And so I know for the sellers, under the law, a seller cannot establish discriminatory terms or conditions in a purchase or rental. So they cannot deny anyone based upon those protected classes, which you've mentioned, race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, and national origin. Is there anything else that you may want to expound on regarding sellers?
Yeah, that's sellers can't deny on those areas more specifically, but there are some other ancillary areas within the fair housing area that has to be acknowledged as well. When I say ancillary, just some additions to that, and that is differing in treatment. So you could differ your treatment against someone who may be the same color and same race as you, but you may have someone who's with you that may not be of that race or color that you may be with. So differing in treatment is another provision under the Fair Housing Act that is prohibited. For instance, you may have two black people who come in to see a property, but one black person is offered the property at a reasonable rate. The other one is offered it at let me say this: one is offered at a different rate, and the other one's offered at the advertised rate. But yet you differed your treatment because of whatever the reason might have been. The point is that you got to treat everybody the same way. You can't just pick and choose how you're going to treat some people. You could be discriminative from that way for race, but say, for instance, if this is just strictly black folks dealing with other black folks, then I can't differ my treatment as to how I'm going to treat each one of you black people. I have to do it the same way.
Right.
And that's a problem as well. So differing in treatment is another area that I think is not always acknowledged by the individuals, but the law will clearly acknowledge it when they discover that it is something that has taken place.
Okay. Well, that's great. So differing in treatment is also a violation as well. So now when it comes to buyers, with buyers, pretty much the only thing that should discriminate them is cash and credit, to say, to just be simple with it. But with that, the buyers cannot be discriminated upon, if they are qualified to buy in an area and someone may try to disqualify them. They are due equal professional service. Buyers are also they should have the opportunity to consider a broad range of housing choices. No discriminatory limitations on communities or locations of housing. And also when it comes to the sale, rental, or financing as well, there should be no discrimination. And so is there anything that you would like to expound on regarding buyers when it comes to fair housing?
Yeah, buyers you would definitely don't want to steer your buyers either.
Yes.
Steering is another provision under the Fair Housing Act too. So you can't steer people to certain areas based upon the ethnicity or the makeup or composition of a neighborhood. Let me give an example of that. And some people are like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this. Well, because I'm just going to use Fayette County, for example. I lived in Fayette County for almost 30 years now. And in Fayette County, there was a community by the name of Country Lakes. Country Lakes was initially built by John Wheeling. John Wheeling wanted to build this for the Eastern Airline employees and the pilots and things of that nature. It was going to be a very upscale neighborhood. Eastern went under, and then now the lots were being sold individually, so individuals come in and buy in those areas. However, very affluent African Americans were buying a lot of these properties. And what was happening is that agents were starting to steer them because they knew that these were where a lot of affluent African Americans were living as buyers over into the community and not giving them other choices to tell them other areas that were available that had meet their needs. So what an agent should be aware of with a buyer is that you should allow them to choose where they want to be. Now, a buyer can tell you, I only want to be here, and that's it. And that's fine. The buyer can steer themselves, if you will. But we as practitioners, we can't do that. I can offer areas to you based upon your qualifications and what you are looking for in a property and the proximity to entertainment and other areas that you find important for you to frequent. But I cannot steer you to certain areas based upon your ethnicity and other cultural things. For instance, because I know Country Lakes has a lot of affluent African Americans in there, and I know you are a ball player and you make a whole lot of money, I just can't take you over there just because of that. I need to offer you some other places as well. And if you choose Country Lakes, then that's fine. But if you don't, if I'm only offering you that, then I'm wrong for that as an agent.
Right. And I know just in learning that, if buyers say that they want to be in a certain community and they describe it, something that, if their description falls under one of those protected classes, we as realtors have to make sure that we kind of make sure that we don't feed into, what that buyer is asking, but also at the same time still wanting to be of service to our client. We have to ask that question in a different way. We have to get them to give us more details on what it is that they're looking for, so that we are in compliance in doing what we do.
Well, let me say this. It's one thing that I've had buyers to say to me, especially those buyers that have a little bit more money than others. They always say, well, I want a neighborhood where it ain't a whole lot of us in there. I want it to be mixed. Well, I don't know where any neighborhoods where people are mixed. And people ask me who live in neighborhoods, then I tell them who live in these neighborhoods are only qualified buyers and sellers.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Because everybody had to qualify to be here.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they black, white, blue, green, yellow, purple, or brown. That's not even for me to determine. They just qualified to be here.
Right. And for real estate agents, that would be one of the safest responses you can give to your client, so that you can ensure that you are not in violation of potentially, of one of those protected classes. So making sure that you cover yourself, even though your client may ask you a question, they're not aware that that is a violation, but you have to be aware of it. And so,
as long as you are aware that there is a violation, but if you acquiesce to their request and it's a violation, both of you are in violation.
Exactly.
And even if they don't know it's a violation, and you tell them I can't do that, that's a fair housing violation, and they insist, then you have a couple of choices to make. Either you want to continue to work with them, or you terminate your relationship, get with your brokers or what have you. But theoretically, or practically, from a practical perspective, terminate the relationship and keep moving, because they're going to keep asking you to do those types of things.
Right. And so for the buyers, if you are listening to this series, just know that you have a role as well. And sellers, if you're listening to this series, just know that you have a role as well. Again, our job is to educate you so that you can achieve your goals in a safe way and without penalty.
Right.
Yeah.
And, back to you said sellers. Sellers are not exempt, as you stated, because I find that sellers can be equally as bad as buyers can be, those that discriminate. I've had sellers to tell me that, well, I really don't want this type of person buying this house because I don't want to offend my neighbors.
Right. And right. And so, guys, we are going to take a brief intermission. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. We're going to talk about home ownership.
Today's world exposes our youth to life experiences that are well beyond that which their years should allow. Violence, trauma, poverty, injustice. Our children's lives and their livelihoods are in constant danger. Wisdom, Inc. is a community-based organization designed to save young lives by reducing violence and assisting youth in their personal development. Wisdom stands for wise individuals structuring and developing youthful minds. Through our collective wisdom, we can change lives for the better. Wisdom, Inc. Reducing violence, developing youth, saving lives.
Hi, I'm Harry Lennox, and you're watching TV 1061, your global network.
Okay, welcome back, guys, and thank you for staying tuned into Your Real Estate Tea, where we teach you so you can become educated to achieve. Now, let's continue to talk about why home ownership is important. Home ownership is a main driver for wealth, for generational wealth in the United States. And we have been talking about fair housing and also the history of fair housing, and we know that there are some gaps that remain pretty big when it comes to housing. And so we do know that 2020 has also contributed to some things as well. Because of the pandemic, people have lost jobs, people have reduced income, and so thankfully, right now, there are things in place, such as the moratorium, where foreclosures have not been occurring. So that will be another episode, guys. So you definitely want to stay tuned. We do want to talk about, foreclosures coming up. And if there is something that you can do about it, we definitely want to share that information with you. And so again, why home ownership? It contributes to generational wealth. And so statistically, the African American community has had a much lower, ratio as far as owning a home in the United States. And so we want to definitely educate you guys to let you know that the gap can be bridged. And so just wanted to know, Judge, in your opinion, what do you see as the benefit to home ownership? And also, what are some factors that can contribute to increasing home ownership as well?
Well, I think the education portion of home ownership, the factors that can contribute is the biggest factor. You got to educate folks on not only just the importance of it, but how it's done, and what they need to prepare themselves to do in order for it to take place. One of the biggest things that I see in lower income areas from not just a home ownership perspective, but just a perspective in whole, is education on finances. People are not as aware as to how finances work, and they have not done a good job with ensuring that their finances are being kept at a place as to where they're not struggling. And that's been the biggest thing, is that individuals have not kept their finances to the degree where they could easily be able to know that finance is what we need in order to buy a home. And I think that's the biggest misconception there is that they haven't recognized that. So, but I think home ownership is great. I think everybody should own it. You're right. It is the catalyst to generational wealth, because if you don't own something, how you're going to be able to leverage something? And that's what a lot of times that's what happens. People leverage what they own in order to benefit for what they're looking to get. And you got to have some leverage, and home ownership gives you that leverage. And home ownership also gives you the leverage too, is that even if you're broke and you own a home and you paid your bill on time and your credit score is good, you have access to capital without even having capital yourself. You can have capital because your credit's good and you paid your bills on time, you own a home. Those things are major players in reference to how generational wealth is starting to be created.
Okay, that's definitely great information. So my goal is, as a realtor, is to, again, share information with you guys, whether you are purchasing a home or if you're selling and you need to, purchase again, or investing. We want you guys to understand that it is attainable, it is achievable, and it is not without reach or out of reach. While we know other things have kind of been factors, I would say specifically in the African American community, we do have, homeowners that may lose their home, or homeowners who may, have their home that's paid off and they owe nothing on it. All they're doing is paying taxes and utilities. Do you have any suggestions for them? I know a lot of times, investors may like to come and buy them out. Do you have any suggestions for people in that type of situation who, they're not sure if they may need to sell that home or if they should keep it? What do you suggest as far as that scenario?
I suggest that they look at where they are financially and determine if it makes financial sense to keep it. Or they should contact an attorney who handles financial scenarios, or an accountant who handles financial situations, to help them better determine what will be the best course of action for them to consider given their circumstances. So, it's not just kind of a paint it with a broad brush and you're done. It's more of a being more specific to get detailed to determine what needs to be done. And I think a lot of times that's where people fail, is that they don't go and seek better advice from others who have the qualifications or the ability and the authority from a legal perspective to give that advice. So yeah, I would say that they need to look at it from that perspective and in terms get some additional assistance and to help them better determine what they should do.
Okay. And so regarding just sticking with the buyers right now, what advice would you give for buyers who maybe qualify in a certain price point, and maybe they decide, okay, you know what, I want to go ahead and get that, use that entire loan amount, do the max. I want the biggest house. I want, to live elaborate. What do you suggest for them as far as just sustaining, and just making sure that you are able to sustain in your home and, continue to build your wealth, to keep something, to leave a legacy?
Right.
What do you suggest?
And what I would suggest too is that if you have looking to buy a house and it's two incomes, I always suggest you buy the house on the lesser of the two incomes. So therefore, if the greater of the two incomes, if the lesser of the two incomes fall apart, or if the greater of the two incomes fall apart, you're still okay. You still have the lesser, which can cover the mortgage payments and things of that nature. I think that's what the biggest situation can be, is that most people go and buy properties based upon what the two of them can afford, just based upon what one of them can afford by themselves. I think one by yourself to afford is a smart way to do it, but so therefore you don't be broke with your with what you're doing.
Right.
You have money. And that is something that I think that happens too often is that individuals will, although you can afford a $400,000 property, but you're affording it with two incomes, buy the house on the lesser of the two incomes. So therefore you can easily be able to handle your business in the event that some things happen where your business is not as strong as it used to be, or you don't have the income like you had in the beginning. You can still be able to live and not have to worry about falling apart or threatening foreclosure, things of that nature, because your money is not there like it used to be.
Right. I think that's excellent advice, is to not just max out on what you're approved for, but definitely get something that's a little bit less than your means, so that in the event a life situation were to happen, it would still be more manageable than, if you had purchased, that higher price point home. And so I think even now, today, in 2021, of course, leading up to this was 2020 has showed and revealed a lot of things to us. And so although the housing situation has not really kind of, I don't want to use that term, what I'm thinking, but it hasn't really, we haven't really seen the true unfolding of it as of yet. But however, we definitely want to take preventative measures as much as we can, and starting with just kind of living a little under your means would be the first step. And so what the solution is, guys, to home ownership, is just to definitely know that if you dream it, if you desire to have that, if you are serious about it, it is definitely possible. While history has shown that maybe it looks to be impossible, history has shown that, of course, with a lot of other things, it is very possible. And so you definitely want to get with a realtor you can trust and come up with a plan of action. Although you may not feel that you're ready, you never really know until you get with someone who can assist you in that process. And so, guys, if you need additional information regarding whether you're buying or selling, you can please reach out to me. My number is 404-965-5041, or you can reach me on my website, which is dreamrealestate.me. And Judge, would you like to leave your information if you guys have an interest in going to real estate school? His school is in Fayetteville. Everything is done virtually. Did you want to share your information?
Sure, that'd be fine. Yeah, we're in Fayetteville. Right now, everything is virtual. We're doing everything via Zoom. And our web address is TAP Training Academy. No, excuse me, tapacademyatl.com. And you can Google us. We're there as well. You can hit us on Google. We're also Tap Academy on Facebook and Instagram as well. So check us out, like our pages, things of that nature. You can see all the great things that we're doing via the training from real estate education, and we do quite a bit for a lot of people. But at the same time, we make sure that our education is top notch. So check us out, and we got classes that's starting right now. And if you're interested, by all means, look us up on the web and register for a class, and we'll get you moving in the right direction.
Okay, great. And so, guys, again, thank you so much for watching Your Real Estate Tea. I'm Andrea Farley, real estate broker with Maximum Realtor Partners. Again, it is definitely possible. So make sure you stay tuned in to Your Real Estate Tea, where we teach you to become educated to achieve. Have a blessed day.
TV 1061, conceptualizing your ideas across the world and beyond.